Okay, let's talk about Andor now that it's come back. Yeah, I was going to talk about it last week, but did my whole Black Mirror rant last week. Catch that if you want to. But Andor has come back very solid. This was a show, a Star Wars show, that no one could really believe because it felt like it was grown up. If you've seen enough Star Wars shows, then you know there's sort of like certain themes that they will handle, but there are things that they won't handle. This one really made it interesting. Seems like the Star Wars shows that seem to work really well are the ones that aren't fan servicey, like Book of Boba Fett or the Obi-Wan one. But stuff like The Mandalorian and this one, Andor, seem to just nail it. Because they're willing to kind of go like, okay, we've established this universe and it has this kind of things going on with it, but what can we do in it? Like, what are some things that haven't really been discussed? Well, when it comes to Andor, it's really discussing kind of the moral ambiguity of a lot of things. I mean, I think the thing that we liked about Star Wars back in the day, as far as like the original trilogy is concerned, was there were definite good guys and definite bad guys. But Andor doesn't really give us that. They show the rebellion that is just kind of starting out, and it's kind of more like really factions, because the way the Star Wars world works is there are planets that are scattered throughout the galaxy, and the only way to get to them is with light speed travel. So naturally, these planets that are slowly being overtaken by the Empire's reign are starting to go like, you know what, we don't really like this. And they're starting to band together, and they're starting to do some crazy things. Now, here's the thing I will have to say about Andor Season 2. I don't know what the heck is going on. Seriously. I have to admit, this was a show that I just kind of like, as I'm watching it, I'm going like, okay, this is a very beautifully shot show. The dialogue is very good. I can usually understand what is kind of happening as far as like, okay, but I have to admit, this is a show that doesn't spoon feed you its plot. This is one of those shows like, say, Game of Thrones, a show that I never really got into because honestly, during the first season, I really couldn't understand what these characters' motivations were and what was really going on and how this world really worked. In Andor, it's Star Wars, but it's kind of not Star Wars. Like, they don't focus on the Jedis or the Sith Lords or anything like that. Now we're starting to see a tie between the movie Rogue One and this. We're starting to see the villain, I think his name is Krennic, make a comeback, and we're starting to see like where Andor is going from here. I believe season 1 of Andor was all about focusing on Andor as, say, a hired gun, just a mercenary, a guy who was in and out of trouble, and he's really starting to get to know the rebellion. And there's essentially a guy in the rebellion named Luthen or something like that, and he's really trying to get it all going. He's trying to get the whole ball rolling so he can, get the universe back on track, or at least just stop the Galactic Empire because he doesn't like him. Luthen's an interesting character, and we see that he has done some things in the past that are despicable, but he feels like, hey, I've got to do this stuff. Otherwise, it's going to end up worse. So essentially, that's one thing I like about this show is we see characters who are doing terrible things, but they're doing it for a greater good, and they're willing to sort of face the fact that they are not doing the greatest good. I'm not really sure how to phrase that. We're starting to see Saul Guerrera. This is a character that first appeared in the Clone Wars series and showed up in Rogue One and is very much radicalized. And I think, from what I can tell, there's a plot line of him trying to sort of get a more refined energy. And I'm actually thinking that he's planning on using that energy to make either mass weapons of mass destructions or ships, because we see him with X-Wing fighters. And if you recall in the first Star Wars movie, this takes place, I think, 3 years before the Battle of Yavin, or 4 years, depending on where you watch this show. That Battle of Yavin was like a big pivotal point in the Star Wars universe. That's when all the rebels and their X-Wings went to destroy the Death Star, and that was a time where the Empire got really set back there. Slightly. They came back for The Empire Strikes Back. But you get what I'm saying. It was a big momentous time. But, of course, you have to ask yourself, where did they get the funding for this? Where did they get all this technology to do this? I mean, as you remember, and I actually believe this has shown up in Andor, the rebels were in that base in Yavin that was pretty well. I mean, it looked like it was an ancient ruin, but they were still hiding out there, and they still had enough ships and stuff to keep going, which I think is interesting. Now, so yeah, there was so much going on this particular season. I was just really getting lost in it, and I'm going to try and tell you what is really happening on this thing as far as I can tell. Okay, as far as Cassian Andor is concerned, his girlfriend, I think her name is Bix, is starting to experience a lot of pressure here under what they're going with. In the first season, she was captured and tortured. She has PTSD from this. In this season, she was nearly sexually assaulted, which is something that I never thought I would ever see on Star Wars. You know what I also never thought I'd ever see in Star Wars? Somebody that has a drug problem. Yeah, Bix has a drug problem. She's using these death sticks, let's just call them that, to calm herself down or to help with the bad dreams that are happening. And even Luthen sees that she's using these and basically says, like, yeah, they help for a little, but no, they're not really that good. So yeah. And as you do, I want to get into spoilers here because, I mean, technically I've seen the first 6 episodes, and normally when I talk about a show on a rant, I usually just watch the first few episodes and decide from there what I want to discuss about it. But there is a way that there's definitely direction of revenge that Cassian and Bix are going with, and that's all I'll say about that. There's a plot line that they're bringing up with a planet called Gorman, and which is basically a silk-making planet, but there's also other elements underneath it. And what I believe those elements are, why the Empire is so needing them, is because they need them to build the Death Star. We've seen that in Cassian, or Andor Season 1, how Cassian is in prison and helping build parts that will eventually be used for the Death Star. That's always in the background of this thing. So, yeah. So basically, the small pocket of rebels on Gorman are trying to steal weapons from the Empire. Weapons that the Empire is smuggling in a covert way, because I think the Empire wants this planet. And they're trying to take it in a nice way, using finesse rather than just absolute military force. But they know if it comes down to it, they might have to use military force, so I think they're bringing in the weapons for that reason. So the rebels go in there and they're trying to stop, or at least put on display, that the Empire is sending weapons in. Now, as of episode 6, we've seen them successfully stop at least one of the weapon shipments, and they've taken the weapons out. What they're going to do after that? Are they going to just bring them to the press, which exists in the Star Wars universe? They've shown, like, there's people on TV and stuff like that. Who knows? There's also a character named, I think his name is Cyril, and he was part of this rebellion, but he's actually a double agent. He's working for the Empire, and he's overseeing the whole thing, and he's reporting back to them. So the Empire knows about this whole thing, and they're simply letting them do it. They obviously have some sort of bigger agenda here. It's kind of like how in the Star Wars prequels, how Palpatine was playing both sides. I think there's some sort of that thing going on there. So yeah, really interesting thing going on there. There's another character, I don't even remember his name. He's got like a mustache and a white uniform. He's kind of trying to be in the rebellion. He's kind of serving both sides. I think Luthen has converted him. There was a plot in episode 6 about the listening device that I thought was really interesting. We're seeing Mon Mothma, a character that we first saw in Return of the Jedi, who is starting to realize that, yeah, she had to pretty much give up her daughter for a marriage just to get some money. And she's also realizing that she can't really stand up for the rebellion in the Senate because it will be known, and they will come after her. There's some interesting things going on with this character. So there's a lot of things, and it really comes off a lot like Shakespeare, because there's a lot of dialogue going around, a lot of characters, and sometimes the plot does take a back seat, but it is a really good season, and I'm going to talk about it. I'll do a rant after the season is over, but yeah, keep watching Andor.